Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. Homage watches are crap and this video sucks. There you go, I've saved half of you a comment. For the other half who is curious about whether Steinhart watches are a cure or a curse, I've decided to take the plunge and find out by myself. The premises are simple. 1. I don't care for homages unless they copy long discontinued collector-grade models. 2. Rolex doesn't want to sell me a sea dweller in their shops, so I feel I have the right to get my fix somewhere else. The model that caught my fancy is the Ocean One Submersible 1000, aka the Vintage Red. 42mm is fine for my 17cm wrist. I like the simple case and red lines. I don't mind the vintage patina lume. So basically the whole presentation on picture looks right to me. I saw some of the other models in person recently, and this one by far looks the best to me. The movement beats at the same 4 Hz pace as a Rolex, being an ETA 2824-2 of the Elaboré pedigree. So I'm expecting it to be quite accurate as well. Side note here, the Elaboré is not ETA's top grade, which would be the chronometer. ETA also delivers a top version, which also received more attention than the Elaboré. The higher you go, the better finish and adjustment you get. Now, the questions are, will it feel as good on the wrist as a Rolex famously does? Will it keep good time as a Rolex expectedly should? And will it make me feel a bit special like a Rolex inevitably does? Hold on, buddy. This is not a Rolex, so you're probably setting the bar a bit high for a $350 watch. Well, let's see anyway. At least this watch has a real 300 meters of water resistance, something you can't expect from all vintage watch purchases. First things first, the buying experience is fantastic. I placed an order on the excellent website on Tuesday afternoon Hong Kong time, which took about 2 minutes. I had a shipment notification by the evening and the packet arrived in Hong Kong after lunch on Thursday. The case was wrapped properly with the watch resting in a nice softly padded branded case. The watch has the appropriate protective stickers all around and was running on arrival. The first impression, wow, it looks the business, and the winding feels more refined, smoother, more Rolex-ish, if you will, than on my Longines Legend Diver, which uses the same base caliber. Screwing back the crown is straightforward, push and screw, no fiddling about required, that's always a relief. Note that there is a full refund policy, but only if you keep the stickers on and don't size the bracelet. I don't see any obvious issues, so I'll go ahead and peel those off. The company has a great reputation of addressing any movement problems, so since I won't be asking any refund, let's go ahead and enjoy this timepiece. No matter what, looks is the most important factor, and I found the overall presentation well balanced between the dial elements, the bezel, and the slim case. I dig the tidy date window and the fonts used for the playful text on the dial. The 2 red lines are nods to some of the rarest Rolex divers and one of my favorite visual features here. The use of vintage patina lume is justified given what the watch references, but I understand how it can be a point of contention. It is a bit of a cheap trick that even big brands like Omega pull on some models. I can live with it as it marries well with the yellowed pearl at 12 o'clock on the bezel and the faded background to what is commonly called a tropical dial. The bezel, its insert and knurling, the crown guards, the signed crown, everything balances well to make an overall not just convincing but really fetching presentation. The company logo is not an eyesore either, and the choice of hands is spot on. They are not of the painstakingly polished kind, but reflect the light well and are appropriate. The rehaut is fairly tall, but I like how, when you angle the watch down to say 30 degrees, the nicely domed sapphire crystal, which lines up well with the angle of the bezel, takes over the attention. I've noticed a really cool effect. There's a bluish flash around the dial at the bottom of the rehaut when you tilt the watch back and forth, likely caused by the double application of anti-reflective coating on the underside of the crystal. That's pretty sweet. Now onto the fit and finish. The watch seems well built and rugged. It's not a flimsy, half-hearted attempt at a vintage-style diver. For reference, it makes the Oris Diver 65 feel like a toy. The bezel is fairly tight for the moment at least. A bit hard to turn as the knurling is quite sharp, but the click is loud and precise with zero backplay and good alignment. You should think twice after seeing this watch whether you really can accept the questionable quality control of the often more expensive Seiko Prospex range. The vintage reference means there's little waste of money on curves and case details. It's straightforward and tidy all over, including the clasp and the satin-like bracelet, which doesn't pale much compared to the big brand from Geneva. The indices are well applied and the green lume lasts all night without being blinding. When fully recharged, the hands seem a little brighter than the indices, but later through the night, all seems to glow evenly. Finally, the back of the watch has a finely etched nautical themed picture. On to the dimensions. 42mm is ideal for my wrist, as I was eyeing the 43mm Sea Dweller. You don't get shortchanged on the amount of steel used here, so it's fairly hefty at around 200 grams, but reasonably so, and the watch has great presence, reinforced by the 22mm lug width. The bracelet tapers down to 18mm at the clasp. I have removed 2 links on one side, 2.5 links on the other, and you will notice that there's one more half link left, which with the 4 finer adjustment pinholes on the clasp ensures that you will find the right fit. Again, many watches costing 10 times the price don't even offer that much flexibility or even screwed holding pins. The height is also kept in check at around 13mm. Now on the wrist, my closest point of reference for a vintage piece would be my mid-2000s Explorer 2 16570, while the reference for a modern piece is my 2018 Explorer. Now this watch, due to the dimensions, is heavier than those, which truncates the comparison, but nevertheless, I can tell after wearing this watch in the daytime and nighttime that it feels good, even if I'm more inclined to wearing lighter pieces. I'm not expecting a superlative chronometer performance here, but the ETA 2824-2 so far runs under +3 seconds a day, which is just about ideal. Now, do I feel confident wearing this watch in Hong Kong? Feeling somewhat self-conscious has always been the main reason for me not to buy a Steinhart. Hong Kong is a watch mecca, and given the population density, you're never more than 10 feet away from a Rolex. And while the modern production finds its way down to the housewives, many guys wear older Submariners. But the many watch nerds around will know what this is and what it isn't. And given the quality, this watch deserves a wink of acknowledgement, as it is made by people who love watches for people who love watches. And if Steinhart didn't make it, you would wish someone else did. To me, it's a good compromise between the look I wanted and the modern iteration of the Sea Dweller, which isn't any more available than the vintage red ones are affordable. We'll see how I feel about the watch in 6 months' time and if my lust for an 8 to 10 grand diver has returned. For now, I'm well happy I pulled the trigger and thanks Steinhart for their hard work and top customer service. The only thing I'd love to add on this watch is maybe 3mm on-the-fly clasp adjustment, a bit like the 5mm Rolex EasyLink. The clasp itself is really hard to open, the sign of a cheaper product, like you would see on replica watches, for example. For the price, obviously, some corners have to be cut. As a side note, given the overall quality of this watch, It indicates how one can be tricked into buying a Tudor replica, for example, and that telltale signs are often in the tactile experience, a loose bezel or over-tightened clasp, for example. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll be comparing this watch to other divers in the same price bracket soon. Let me know what you think in the comments, and remember, don't judge too harshly until it's on your wrist. Until next time, so long.